feeling like trying to do a Star Wars review, but try to squish in my thoughts on basically all of it. So let's start. I love the original trilogy. The original trilogy is amazing. It is excellent storytelling. And in a bubble by itself, I guess you don't need to change anything. But once you know that people are going to want to expand on it and create more stories there, heck, even Lucas wanted to add more. The original trilogy isn't enough. Not enough of the setting was well enough defined to build upon very well. And anyone who wrote any of the books in the original extended universe, and comics and video games, and other shows, movies, they all have to make stuff up to try and build their stories, and they don't all jive well together, and there's just not enough to build on. So I think it's a rough thing to try and expect of Lucas to have had that foresight. So I'm not really dinging him on that, but it would have been nice if he had paid a little bit more attention to world building when he made the original trilogy. Now, the other thing about the original trilogy is that there are a couple things I wish he had done a little differently. The most important two, I'll say. We've got the trench run, which is one of the best scenes in movies, period. Just, it's very engaging, very tense. I'm on the edge of my seat every time, even though I've seen the movie, I don't know, I'm guessing 100 times. And that's not an exaggeration. I think that's reasonable. I don't know. Anyway, trench run. Shouldn't have been a thermal exhaust port, because that doesn't make sense on a space station. Does it have a tailpipe? Is he trying to get rid of exhaust in space? What it should have been is a maintenance opening for the large construction and repair vehicles to go into the middle of the station, so they don't have to pass through hallways and stuff, because that power plant in the middle was huge. So you need vehicles to be able to get into the middle of this moon-sized space station. It should have just been a maintenance tunnel, and they should have just put more turrets close to the entrance, so you can't fire the missiles from far away because they'll just get shot down by the turrets, and because they don't evade well, and so the pilots have to fly in close, avoid getting shot, and fire the missiles when there's not enough time left to shoot the missiles down. First run of Y-Wings should have been to blow open the door. I know that force fields are used a lot in this, but if it's an infrequently used maintenance tunnel, let's make it a door. So they blow open the door, realize that the armor of their flying tanks isn't really enough to get them a second round. So the X-Wings have to try. Gold Squad fails. Luke's use of the Force is now to evade being shot down before he gets close enough to shoot the missiles. Instead of turning off the missile lock that tells the missiles when to turn down the hole. Like, the missile lock is a necessity. The Force doesn't do that. Like, timing the shot has nothing to do with whether or not those missiles are going to turn. So anyway, I always thought that was a stupid piece of logic, and Lucas should have done that better. Second thing he should have done better with the original trilogy is stick with his original plan to use Wookiees on Endor. The Ewoks are not a believable force for fighting stormtroopers. They're just not. Even in the movie, they show a rock-tipped arrow bouncing off of stormtrooper armor. And for some reason, the stormtroopers are panicking and falling down. Like, what? The stormtroopers would have slaughtered those Ewoks. Should have slaughtered those Ewoks. But Lucas wanted a primitive species. And I think that was just an idea he should have given up on. Just give up that and say, instead, leaning on the story between Han and Chewbacca, where Han supposedly rescued Chewbacca from Imperial enslavement, which is why Chewbacca is so devoted to him. It's a Wookiee slave labor force on Endor. Rebels get there and are like, oh, we can rescue them, and they can probably help us get this job done. And then we get to see Wookiee tearing people's arms out of their sockets. It would have been awesome. Perfect solution. And I'm disappointed that Lucas didn't figure that one out. It's really the only detractor from Return of the... Nope, not the only one. Luke's plan at Jabba's palace to rescue Han is also a point I want changed, because it's convoluted and ridiculous. They had Lando inside and then added Chewbacca into the prison, stuck Leia in there as a bounty hunter that got discovered right away, and the only thing they got for putting... Oh, yeah, and the droids, of course, got given to Jabba. So the only thing they got for implanting 4 people in bad situations in Jabba's palace was that Han got released from the carbonite. All they had to do was have Lando, find the right time. Like, Jabba has a sail barge. He leaves sometimes. He leaves the palace. There's got to have been a good time for him to have released Han and gotten him out of there easily. Like, Luke's plan was weird. And then at the end of Empire Strikes Back, we see Lando and Chewie going after Han. So why wasn't Chewie already there working with Lando somehow? Yeah. Anyway, that should have been done better. Sorry, that was a third thing. But Lucas's storytelling is impeccable. He's great at creating tension, excitement. Great storyteller. So original trilogy is excellent. Then we get the prequels. The prequels suck. They're awful. Straight up terrible. Let me be clear, though. The actors did excellent work with what they were given. Ewan McGregor is straight up amazing as Obi-Wan Kenobi. Like, I love him in that role. I can't imagine anyone else playing him now. This video is going to be longer than I intended it to be. So prequels failed to take into account all the setups that were made in the original trilogy to tell us what was happening with the Clone Wars. Like, Uncle Owen should have been Anakin's full brother. We don't need a virgin birth story. That's stupid. And then Uncle Owen should have featured more in the prequels so that we can get the scenes where Uncle Owen is telling Anakin not to follow Obi-Wan on some damn fool crusade, just like Obi-Wan said. And Anakin probably should have started out as a spice freighter pilot or navigator. Yeah, navigator on a spice freighter. And Obi-Wan finds him in that job and does something really impressive, and Obi-Wan realizes he's force sensitive, and he's like, ooh, we should train him. And that leads me to my next thing. The Jedi should not have been a government body or a military body. Like, what the hell is that? Why did George Lucas make that mistake? That was just dumb. They're not elected, so they shouldn't be like a government organization. They shouldn't have any power in government. And they very clearly are not a military body. They're a religious order. And what I think they should have done is make like Yoda and the old guard be the Jedi Order that is more like the ascetic monk, where they don't use their power to influence society much because they don't want to force their thoughts on other people. Like they don't want to be in control of society. They don't want to use their power for fear of it corrupting them and for fear of doing what's entirely wrong. And then there's like the younger generation of Jedi like Obi-Wan who are like, look, there's this clone war going on around us. Lots of people are suffering. We have this power. We should try to help people. So while Yoda trained Obi-Wan, Obi-Wan and others like him followed a different path, and they offered to assist in the Clone Wars. This is what should have happened, in my opinion. So then we get Obi-Wan saying, hey, Yoda, do you think you can train him? He has a really strong connection to the Force, and we could use him. And that way, instead of it being just trying to avoid the results of a prophecy, Yoda can say, look, I'm not interested in training someone for war, and I feel like that's going to turn out really badly if we train him this way so that he can help you in the fighting. And Yoda would be right, and Obi-Wan then can, as he said, think he could do just as good a job and start training Anakin while they're out doing things. Would have been so nice, such a smooth thing. But then we also have to change what the Clone Wars are, because Jedi would have recognized that clones are slaves in this setting and wouldn't have used them. They would have tried to free them. So what the Clone Wars should have been about was that the Separatists were the cloners, using clones for most of their economy, cheap teachers, cheap housekeepers, cheap anything where we're having a living face is preferable to a droid, and their economy depends on it. So the South, I mean the Separatists, go to war to protect their slavers' rights. And the good guys decide to try and stand up a military force quickly, so they're the ones that ends up with droids. And then the Clone Wars are about clones' rights, essentially. Trying to help the existing ones and trying to prevent future clones from being made into service, like genetically modified, so that they don't want to escape, so that they are obedient. Yeah. So Lucas completely messed up, lost the potential for what could have been freaking amazing for prequels, and it could have been so much better. Also, they need to have explained better. Like, Padme shouldn't have died at the end of episode 3 in childbirth, because according to episode 6, Leia remembers her real mother. Leia would have to have been, what, like a 7-year-old, an 8-year-old, maybe even a 9-year-old to have memories of her mother. I guess she's only, what, like mid-20s in Return of the Jedi? So, I don't know, maybe a 6-year-old, but somewhere around there. So Padme needs to have survived for 5 to 10 years after the birth. And now we need a better explanation for why the kids were split up. And my initial guess is that Vader is connected to Luke. Vader senses Luke and knows that he's there and was able to find Luke. Never learned that he had the daughter, but when he came after them, they realized that there was a danger to the babies, and they somehow know that it's Luke that they're going to find. Obi-Wan says, all right, Luke has an uncle on Tatooine. I will go with Luke, protect Luke, and I don't think Vader will find him there. Yeah, so in my version 2, Padme is force sensitive, not a queen, and she is a pilot for Senator Bail Organa. And like they have a good working relationship. She's saved him a bunch of times. And when she does die, Leia's already a kid that has been around the Organas a lot, and that's why she ends up with them instead of Bail saying, we've always wanted a baby, we'll take Leia. Yeah, the prequels could have been so much better, and I feel it as a loss that they weren't. And then the sequels, and I'm gonna stop on the sequels. I'm not gonna talk about the other movies or shows in this video because it's getting way too long. Sequels, utter crap. They're just, again, I'm gonna point out, like I did for the prequels, that the actors did excellent work with the garbage they were given. I like the actors. I like even the characters that were introduced. Finn is an interesting thing. I kind of like the idea of, we don't really have our cloning facilities for the stormtroopers anymore. We lost a lot of that over the past 30 years. So we're brainwashing kids. Ta-da! And yeah, it's an interesting backstory. I like Rey. I like Poe well enough. I hate how they made him do the prank phone call in episode 9. It's just too dumb. Anyway, I like the character well enough. Kylo, oh man, they really shouldn't have. The way they had him kill his dad was dumb. Like, just dumb. But the character's really good. He is an excellent dark side force user. He is much more controlled by his emotions, much more likely to give in to rage. I love the scene where he gets mad enough to destroy the consoles and stuff that were in the room. Like, that was really good character definition. I even think he might have been a better example of a dark side force user than... Ooh, no, just a different one. Excellent. Really well done. Character. So we have some things, some components that are good. Oh, heck, even I like the scene where Han says it was all real. I like the scene where Finn says, we'll use the Force, and Han says, that's not how it works. And then Chewie says something. He says, oh, you're cold? Oh, those little bits, those were good. But making Episode 7 into a direct copy of Episode 4 was a waste of one of the 9 movies. It also invalidated a lot of what happened in the original trilogies. Original trilogy. Episode 6 ends with the fall of the Empire. Like, Emperor Palpatine is dead and should have stayed dead. Yeah, I know there are some stories written where he had like a cloning plan where his memories would be put into a clone body and so he could escape death that way. But whatever, that's not part of the movies, and I don't want it to be part of the movies. So yeah, making the First Order into essentially the Empire and having it still be the primary military force in the galaxy means that Episode 6 was actually a failure? Like, what? What were you thinking? Why would you do that? The original trilogy is the foundation of the whole thing. You don't screw it up. So yeah, Episode 7 has some good bits. I like the characters, but holy crap, what a gigantic waste of potential. And the Episode 8, Rian Johnson, I hate Rian Johnson. Hate him as a person for what he did to Star Wars. Episode 8 is the worst piece of Star Wars in existence. Just awful. Like, he didn't do anything right in that movie. And he wrecked things in so many ways, including ruining the character of Luke Skywalker, and making Princess Leia, General Leia, I don't know, whatever, making Leia have the most important scene of hers being surviving being exploded into space. The whole thing is based on a stupid premise of a really slow, no tension space chase. Now, the rebels are running out of fuel. That's never been a thing. They were just on land. Like, they had their ships prepared to go. Yeah, no, stupid space chase backbone of the movie. Awful premise. Luke dying because he overexerted himself? What? Like, why? Oh, why? And then because Carrie Fisher passed away, and Leia was the only surviving character of that original trio. Yeah, I guess you still have Chewbacca, so 2 characters of the original 4. Yeah, so Episode 9 had to try and recover from the damage that episode 8 did. Had the same person writing it as episode 7, so like not a lot of hope there, and what we got was a stupid treasure hunt thing. And of course, somehow the Emperor returned. Which again destroys the success of episode 6. The sequel trilogy should have been done completely differently. The Empire should have been like just remnants, just like basically small pirate fleets spread out throughout the galaxy. Maybe a few Imperial worlds still remain where like their leadership hung on to a few Star Destroyers and like have a fascist state on their planets. Whatever, there are hundreds of worlds supposedly in the, or thousands in the Star Wars universe, in the Republic. And they could have done, or they should have made the Empire small. And they should have been, I mean, it's 30 years after Return of the Jedi. So a lot happens in 30 years. This should have been a burgeoning new republic. The Jedi Order should have been at least somewhat underway, with Luke being one of the ones that is heading up that effort. I mean, if Disney had wanted to use Ahsoka, they could have used her in 7, 8, and 9. Or at least said she was part of the new order, where they're trying to build it without the flaws. Make it into more of a religious organization. Of course, if they had done my version for the prequels, Ahsoka would have been different anyway. Yeah, anyway. I'm getting close to half an hour on this video. I love the original trilogy, though there are things I wish had been done differently. I hate the prequels because they're awful, and I hate the sequels more, primarily episode 8, which is the most awful Star Wars thing. So out of our 9 Skywalker saga movies, based on Lucas's original 9-episode thing, just a piece of trivia for you about this. Lucas did have 9 episodes planned for this story, and when he got his minimal funding to make an episode, he decided to go with a story in the middle, and he squished together his parts 4 and 5 and made episode 4 of Star Wars, right? So then when episode 5 of the movies came out, he used parts 6 and 7 of his story. And then Return of the Jedi is parts 8 and 9. So this was the story of Anakin Skywalker, and he still had material for parts 1, 2, and 3 that he might have eventually changed into the prequels. His plans were apparently bonkers, and like even worse than what we got. Yeah, anyway, and so as far as the movies are concerned, episodes 1 through 6 should have been the saga of Anakin Skywalker. But because there were originally 9 parts, and there were rumors of us getting episodes 7, 8, and 9, and Lucas talking about wanting to do 7, 8, and 9, but again, his plans were bonkers. Then Disney bought it. 7, 8, and 9 should still have been related to the story of Anakin Skywalker. in my opinion. And essentially have largely focused on Luke and Leia, and them passing the torch down to their kids. Rey should have been Luke's daughter, or use the books, the old extended universe for more material. Include Mara Jade. Yeah. Anyway, what we got for our 9 episodes of Anakin Skywalker saga, only 3 of them are good. And that's so sad to me. I feel loss. Alright, I've crossed the half-hour mark. I did talk about all 3 trilogies, like I intended to. Hopefully that gives you an idea of the basics of my opinion of Star Wars, and maybe I'll make another one that tries to talk about all the TV series that Disney put out. Thanks for listening.